Good evening, everyone. We'll get started shortly. We'll allow others to log in, and so we'll get started in about a minute or so.
Sounds great.
Welcome, everyone. Oh, they're coming in. The numbers are going up. Very nice.
And just to let everyone know, we will record this, and so if anybody misses this, we will have this posted on the website. So those that want to view that a little bit later on, they can do so.
Welcome, everyone.
Hey, it looks as though 21 is where we're going to end up for now. I don't see it moving anymore. So for the sake of everyone's time, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to the Department Information Sessions hosted by the USC Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work, Office of Admissions and Academic Operations. My name is Ron Rubalcaba. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions. This evening, I'm joined by an amazing panel of faculty from the USC Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work. This hour, we're going to hear from our faculty about social change and innovation, commonly referred to as SCI. If there are any technical difficulties, please indicate that in the text box, which is closely being monitored. I'll do my best to troubleshoot and provide some solutions there. And also at the end of the presentation, there will be a question and answer session. So time permitting, we'll randomly select a few questions for the panelists to answer. Now, I would like to turn it over and introduce our moderator for this evening, Dr. Renee Smith-Maddox, who is a clinical professor and diversity liaison for the USC Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work.
Thank you, Ron, and welcome, everyone. This is such an exciting event for us, welcoming you as the incoming Fall 2021 class. We hope you're doing well, and we thank you for being here. This evening was designed specially for you. It is SCI's opportunity to address all of the questions that you might have, or at least most of them, with regards to our curriculum, field placement, and career opportunities. We want to highlight these three particular aspects of the school and our department because this is what the school experience, this is what the graduate learning experience is all about. So I'd like to, one, take a moment and introduce myself to you. Again, I am a clinical professor and diversity liaison for the school. I teach not only in the the MSW program, but also in our doctoral social work program. And I've been at the school for about 10 years. A lot of my interests have been situated in diversity, equity, and inclusion at the school level, as well as the university level. I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues and let them introduce themselves to you before we start our roundtable discussion. Sam?
Hello, thank you, Renee. My name is Sam Mistrano. I'm a clinical associate professor at the school. I'm also a lawyer, and I started my career with the ACLU's National Legislative Office in DC and worked for them, moved to Southern California, worked for the ACLU here, and I've done my entire career has been very practice-oriented in terms of policy, community organizing. And I've also been associated with the school as a professor for 14 or 15 years at this point. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Rick N.
Hi, my name is Rick Neumeyer. I'm a senior lecturer with the school, Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work. I've been with USC also for around 10 years, about the same amount of time as Renee. I came to the school after working in the field for about 20 years, mostly leading programs and organizations on the nonprofit side.
Rick O.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rick Ornelas, and I'm also a clinical associate professor with our school. I've been with the school for about 5 years now. Prior to USC, I was in law enforcement now for 30 years or so, both working in the field and in administrative roles. One of my roles within the school, in addition to teaching classes, is that I'm the co-lead of our social work and public safety initiative, along with Dr. Rosemary Alamo. And our goal is to place MSW interns with law enforcement partners across Los Angeles County and San Bernardino. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'd like to give those who are attending a little sense of the core classes that we offer, and particularly the ones that you teach. So could we go around, and for Rick, you can use that as an opportunity to also start to talk about field placement opportunities that are available, as well as stipends. But I want to go back to Sam, and could you shed light on some of the core courses that you teach?
Sure, and let me orient everybody for a second. The field of professional social work is very broad, and most of society, when they think of a professional social worker, think of a clinician who works with children one-on-one. But the history of social work and tens of thousands of professional practitioners also include what we call macro, bigger issues that affect the social welfare. And so people interested in focusing on social change and innovation, macro social work, that kind of practice, they make communities better, and they create situations that so that families have more opportunity and better access to services, things like that. So that's where the macro stuff fits within the broader realm of professional social work. It's a really special thing to learn about, get to practice on, especially with our field placements. The courses I focus on are the policy courses. So we have a basic policy course that all students have to take, and people traditionally have that course that even people who are not interested in policy come away thinking, oh my God, that's so incredible. I was published in a major newspaper. I lobbied a state senator for I thought these were beyond me. And so that's what everybody has to take. And I also teach the advanced policy classes as well, where we go a little bit more into how policy works, how policy is implemented at an agency level, at a state level. It's really super interesting. And just briefly, because I know both Ricks are super know what we're offering, but that's my sort of specialty. We also have business stuff that I think Rick teaches. We have grant writing, which a bunch of people teach, including myself. So it's there's a lot of excellent core courses, let alone the electives, which are, I don't know if we're going to have time to talk about our electives, but the Sky electives are fantastic. So that's sort of my piece on that.
Thank you, Sam. And as you're getting acquainted with Sky's curriculum, I want to emphasize things that might not be apparent. As macro practitioners, one of the goals is to train you in the skills that you will be needed to actually lead organizations. So there's one side of the work to come to understand what it means to be a systems thinker and to be able to facilitate change. And there's the other piece is to have the skill set that's needed in organizations. So as you're hearing my colleagues talk about the various courses that they teach, and there are many others. So we're just giving you a sampling tonight that you can get a sense of the skills that will be developed in the courses that you're required to take. Rick N.
So like Sam was talking about is kind of how broad that social work is. And with social work, no matter what type of social work you do, it's about creating positive change. And a lot of social workers do that with individuals and families. We do that within this, within Sky on the more macro level. So as Sam was saying, on a policy level, community level, for me, I'm a bit more focused on the organizational level. So both traditional organizations as well as non-traditional organizations, teaching you how to lead people, lead teams, how to develop programs that respond to the needs of the community and impacted populations, how to keep organizations sustainable. So financial management, budgeting, dealing with grants and fundraising and all of that. And then again, as I said, social work is about change. There's constant change in our communities, and our organizations need to change to respond to that. So we focus a lot on change management as well, how to be effective at change management, and keep our organizations responsive to what's happening to the people that we're trying to serve. So I teach Social Work 648, which is a management and organizational development, and a bunch of other classes as well that kind of along more, again, traditional as well as non-traditional organizations.
Rick O, I'm going to come back to you, but I want to circle back for a moment to Sam. And Sam, you'll see the bridge that I'm making to one of our required courses. You know, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the school is very important from many dimensions. We want to make sure we have an environment that we are constantly creating, and that means you as students will be creating with each other in your classroom, with your professors, with each other, with the various organizations you might be connected to at the school level. And there's another piece here. So besides just being mindful of welcoming diverse perspectives and to create inclusive environments and make sure that what is done across the school is done so in an equitable way, we want to be mindful of how do you create a practice, a diversity, inclusion, and equity practice that's really mindful of who you are now and the kind of mindfulness and the kind of self-examination and awareness one has to have as you think about working with people who are different than you. How do you engage in difference? How do you teach across differences? And we are all learning about this. And we are coming to find no matter how experienced you are, there is something to learn in the DEI space. But I want to connect Sam to this conversation because we do have a diversity course. And Sam, I know you're one of our instructors, and I'd like you to speak to that course and the focus.
Well, one of the things, broadly speaking, is in the professional and societal worlds that we live in, social workers bring a lot of skills that people outside the profession maybe don't quite understand. And one of them is we're multilingual. Professional social workers are able to talk in the same workday, say, across all kinds of different levels of society. They could talk to a client one-on-one, then they can talk to a bureaucrat at their agency, then they can talk to a decision maker in the policy world, then they can talk to a funder. All different sort of requires different communication skills. Our diversity course, which I teach as well, reinforces that, but also brings a social justice intersectionality approach to understanding both systems and people and seeing where they're coming from. And it's increasingly successful, exciting course that's mandatory for all of our students. And it has a very strong focus on social justice through the lens of diversity and equity and inclusion. And so I don't want to get into all the details because then 4 hours later, I'm still talking about it. So hopefully that just touches it a little bit, Renee.
Yes, it's about piquing their curiosity of what's
okay. Yeah. Did I pique your curiosity, everybody?
Rick O, it's your time. The signature pedagogy for social work is field. And we know the important role that it plays in their professional development. And I think that in this setting, it's a wonderful opportunity to have you here to just sort of unpack some of the various dimensions of feel and focus on the various placement opportunities that are available, stipend opportunities that would be available to our students, and anything else that you feel will really help them understand how do they navigate their work in the field process.
Thank you. So I teach a number of courses that are specifically related to field. Social work 589A, 589B, 588, 698A and B, which are all applied learning and integrative learning for social work practice. And you're wondering, what do those terms mean? Well, there's a portion where you will be in the field at your placement in which you are applying the skills, the social work practice skills that you're learning in class. So that's one piece of the program. So as a first year student, you'll have a placement, you'll have to complete 450 hours, 16 hours per week. That's the internship portion. And then you have the classroom portion where now you get the opportunity to speak to the meaningful work and the social work activities in which you are engaged in at your field placement. And at the same time, integrating that knowledge from your other courses into the classroom. And our purpose of that is so that you learn from each other, that you consult with your other colleagues as you're growing through this program. So in your first year, as I mentioned, you'll complete 450 hours, 16 hours a week. In your second year of placement, it bumps up to 550 hours to 20 hours a week. And for the two courses that run concurrently with that is our integrative learning classes. Now, we do have stipend opportunities, and this will be for your second year. So I will speak to them briefly. Once you're in the program, once you're assimilated into your classes, then you can do some more questioning and research around this. The first one is it's a geriatric social work education consortium, GSWIC, or otherwise known as GSWIC. Now, that is working with the aging services, and it's specific to Sky, and there's a one-year stipend from $4,000 to $8,000. The second one is a workforce development stipend that's about $18,000 through the Department of Mental Health, and or otherwise known as DMH. And there are some requirements through that that follow you through post MSW to work with DMH in a specific area. And there's some trainings that are also that are with this stipend. Again, just mentioning them now as potential stipend opportunities for your second year. As far as placements are concerned, there are a number and a full range of placements in which you can participate in. So as I mentioned earlier, there are internship opportunities with law enforcement placements, and we have Sky students, first and second year students within law enforcement that are engaged in a number of activities, as both Sam and Rick N have mentioned. So macro practitioners really looking at systems, really looking at how law enforcement does its work, looking at policy, program development, planning, monitoring, implementation, evaluation, coaching, consultation, marketing, grant writing. those are some opportunities within law enforcement. And we also have students across a number of other placements that are community-based organizations or organizations that work with survivors or victims of domestic violence. So as you're working within these systems, you'll be applying the skills learned in your foundational year to work within teams, to work within organizations, to speak the variety of languages that that move organizations towards meaningful change. Well, I can't speak to every placement. I can tell you that we do have a vast variety of placement opportunities for you. As I mentioned, ranging from community-based organizations, working within law firms, working within the hospital settings, to give you the practice and knowledge, skills, and abilities to impact and service communities.
So I hope everyone is getting a sense of the offerings, the core courses, the kind of learning experiences you can have, and the process of getting into your field placement and what that entails and what are your options. In the chat box, you'll see a link that will give you some more information about the stipend process and the opportunities that are available. And I want to just remind you that the chat is open where you can post your questions. So when we get to our Q&A segment, we can answer what questions you might have. So I want to fast forward and give our attendees a sense of, from your experience, colleagues, the kinds of positions our graduates tend to get. You know, it's from recent graduates to those who have been out for a few years. I know that I'm meeting with a graduate student from a couple of years ago this week, who actually works in New York with the Harlem Children's Zone. She was a Sky student, and she is an in-house social worker for that place-based initiative in Harlem, New York. And she constantly is telling me about how her training in Sky has really prepared her to work in that type of organization, which is servicing the community. And it's a very robust program that's not only servicing the community, but it's servicing families and their children, and really focusing on the importance of intergenerational education so that you can move towards intergenerational wealth. And so, and the Harlem Children's Zone is well known for the kinds of work that it has been doing with generations of children and their family as it relates to education. So, and there's many others. Rick N, any sort of students, or well, more specifically, where our students are landing professionally? Can you share some examples?
Well, all sorts of places. Some students finish and they want to, go straight into doing things more on the macro leadership side of things, and they may have experiences prior to school that that support that as well. Other students have said, you know what, I want to head to leadership, but I want to get my LCSW so that I can lead organizations that have a strong clinical focus. And so they do that and head it. So there's different things, but a lot of our students end up working in community-based organizations, nonprofits, as well as public child welfare organizations that serve veterans, healthcare organizations, and some of them do end up as program managers or program directors in those organizations. We have graduates who work as grant writers, doing fundraising or doing program evaluation, contract management for organizations. I saw one of my students who graduated a couple of years ago is the senior homelessness specialist for the state of California, working up in Sacramento. And so we have a number of graduates who go into city and government positions, generally working in areas that impact people experiencing homelessness, as well as other vulnerable populations. So just kind of a whole variety of different things. And then we have some that are social entrepreneurs. They go and they don't want to do that traditional path. They want to do something that's a bit more unique. And so sometimes starting their own organizations to do something that's very unique, and often working with a whole variety of organizations. They collaborate and provide a unique service or a unique aspect to help out other organizations. Maybe helping organizations with their diversity, their equity, diversity initiatives. Maybe working with organizations to all sorts of things. I've got all these things flooding into my head, but not everyone goes immediately into a macro type position. Some people do more direct service work. It depends upon what your interests are and what your experiences are. But for the most part, people that get an MSW from USC, they end up moving into leadership sooner than later. And so that's, again, why our department tries to help prepare you for that.
Thank you, Rick. Sam?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Rick was talking about. I was trying to think, jotting down some specific examples of students. And it's funny because I've been at the school for so long, I've lost track of everything. But so I'm going to echo some of what Rick said. First of all, people come into our program, many times they have existing interests. And so depending on their existing interest, they sort of follow with that. And others are not sure about what they're specifically interested in. And then they decide whether they like their field placement. And a lot of people are hired by their field placements if they like their field placement. But more specifically, individual students that I know of right now, one works for a US senator, one works for, not in California, but in Arizona. Another person works for a school board member in Los Angeles. Another student, as Rick mentioned, a lot of our graduates start out whatever their post-MSW first job is and rapidly move into some kind of management, whether it's managing the program they were in or moving up. One of my students moved up super fast, and she's the vice president of a 70, how big's the agency? A 500-person agency. So she's doing, that's fantastic. Another student, as Rick mentioned, maybe it's the same student, though I doubt it, is a fundraiser. She was hired by a foundation. This person came into the program with existing contacts. She was only like 25 or 26 years old, so it wasn't like she was a returning professional, but those contacts come to fruition when you get a master's degree. You interact, some of your assignments. She was in my grant writing class, and she got a job as in development for a foundation. Several of my students, after taking some time off, return to school somewhere for a doctorate. So that's a very unique type of thing. And our DSW program is entirely macro focused. And so that's become something. And then the last person I was thinking of just in the last 5 minutes, she got a job, not in California, somewhere else, being the new CEO of a smaller agency of like 10 people. And so I'm focusing on the sky, people who focus on macro. And so those are some specific examples. I didn't name names or organizations, but I was trying to think of it. Oh, and this one, one of my students did a joint degree with another program at USC, and then it was hired by the Department of Justice to run one of their immigration rights projects. Totally exciting. So but that person got a joint degree with another program too. So those are some a little bit more specific
And I want to add that we've had many students, as you mentioned, business and social work. You heard us mention that earlier, but we've had students who have gone into the foundation world, the Dodger Foundation being one. We've had students who've gone down the path of working with organizations, particularly for-profit organizations that have social responsibility units or foundations that focus on social responsibility. Also, we've had students who've gone into higher ed. Right here at USC, we have a student that I'm reminded of that has found her way into work and life. And a lot of social workers are finding their way in that realm of work where they're able to provide professional training, professional development with a focus on wellness and health. There's so much work out there where social workers are being called on to help in work environments really focus on how work environments can be places, healthy places for people to thrive and survive. So the list is long. But we wanted to at least give you a sampling of where our students land. Rick, I know you work very closely with our students as well. Rick O, anything to add?
Yes, thank you. I agree with all three of you. Students, former students have landed in positions such as program managers. Students that have supervised interns that have helped develop policy, programs, coaching, marketing, grant writing, or funding opportunities. Students that have opened their own consultation business. So walking out of the school, they walk away with the skill set to launch their own business. And those are the students that come to mind in addition to what the three of you mentioned as well.
Thank you. I'd like to round our conversation off with any advice that you all can give the students who are here today. I know as I'm listening to you and hearing about the courses and hearing about the opportunities they can tap into, I know I'm really excited about the work we get to do with students. But I always know the importance of mentoring and the connection to faculty as well as the various activities of the school and the university. But I'd like to go around and just give each of you an opportunity to sort of drop a little nuggets of sort of insight, if not wisdom, on for our attendees. What advice would you have?
Oh, well, I have a slight, it's more of a life advice thing, but it works great in this milieu. I'm reflecting back on when I was in law school. I went to law school, I'm a lawyer. And when I went to law school, I just sort of went because I had nothing to do. And I didn't find my motivation until a couple years out of law school. And so I don't think I really used my time in law school to any real, I learned, I passed, you know, I got a degree, but I wasn't an empowered individual. And so my advice and what I try to get across in my classes, whether they're VAC or on the ground, is a level of empowerment, especially for macro students, especially for people taking a SCI curriculum. You can literally do what you want with it. A lot of our field placements, Rick O obviously knows more about it than me, but a lot of our field placements when it comes to macro stuff, the agency or corporation or firm sometimes taking a flyer on bringing an MSW in there, and it's up to you to create something. And for people who are interested in innovation and social change, that's an incredible opportunity to create something new in this organization. It comes from something that you believe in, something that you're empowered about. And that's what I think Sky students really could get a lot from if you come in with some kind of broader purpose about why you want to get a master's of social work and who you are as a person. You don't have to be fully formed, but that level of empowerment really serves you. And so I'll conclude by saying I think the Sky curriculum, way more so than the children, youth, and family, and way more so than the adults and mental health, really responds well. Our curriculum responds well, interacts well with people who have a little bit more energy, empowerment, entrepreneurial stuff, so that you want to be in management quick. You want to make a change quick. You don't want to just get a job somewhere like a lot of lawyers do and pound out the same legal briefs for 30 years and then retire to play golf. And so I guess that's it's more of a life thing than really like study up and eat your apples and don't drink except on the weekends, right? That's too specific. So that's what, hopefully that made sense. I'm not sure, but hopefully that made sense. And to conclude, the Sky material really works phenomenally well when you're in it, in your field place, when you graduate, with people who have some level, even if it's liminal or inchoate, like those words, of motivation. So that's what I'm urging you, is to find a little bit of empowerment about who you are and what you want to do.
Great reflection on your life. You've learned a little bit, I see. Okay.
I'm so old.
I tell you, those life lessons, there's nothing like them. So thank you, Sam. Rick, N?
I hate to say it, but can you restate the original question? I got carried away by Sam and just inspired, and I lost track of what the original question was.
This is what happens, y'all, when wisdom sets in, okay? So we are focusing on just what kind of advice, the 411 advice that you want to give our attendees.
Yeah, I mean, there's the usual sort of school type advice, strategies of, get yourself a circle of friends and supporters, people that you take classes with, that you like doing, because you're going to have group projects throughout. Find people who you like doing group projects with, and continue to work with them. Avoid the ones who are horrible to do group projects with. Try to get to know your professors. If you decide to go, if you need a letter of recommendation, it really helps if you kind of have connected in a way with your professors, that you don't just kind of slip in the room and leave afterwards and don't make, so just making connections with your colleagues as well as your professors is a huge thing. And some students really take advantage of that. Other students just kind of go through and do their thing. But the more you can do that's very, very helpful. The other thing, kind of along with a little bit with what Sam was saying, is the thing that I love about social work is it is so broad. There are so many different aspects to it, so many different ways to do it, and everything you do in social work can inform you and help you to be better in another area. And so you can do clinical work, and you can take those transferable skills and those things that you learned about populations and all, communities and all of that, and it can help you to be a better leader, manager, supervisor, change maker. You can also, and so you can also take those different experiences that you have in your life up into this point and put those to work in your career as well. So before I went into social work, I worked in business. I managed restaurants, and then I was a social worker for 20 years. And I immediately found all of my silly restaurant manager skills were incredibly helpful in running nonprofit programs, especially residential programs. It was like, oh my gosh, it's the same thing. Instead of customers, you've got clients. Instead of waiters and waitresses, you've got your residential staff. You still have a facility you get all these different things. And so a lot of social work is discovering how amazingly transferable that your skills are. And that you can bring kind of all parts of your person, your experience into your work, and makes you more effective. So there's no one path. It's not pre-med, med school, go on and do a doctor. Social work is full of people who have made career changes, who have come from all sorts of different disciplines and orientations. And I think social work is so fitted for that, of taking all of those different things together to get back and benefit. And so nothing gets wasted, every experience in your life. If you have a fantastic field placement while you're in school, that's amazing. If you have a horrible field placement, that's also amazing, because you've got a big book full of all of the things that you're going to do different when you're in charge, when you're running an organization, how you can better meet the needs of your staff, of the community, clients, et cetera. So every experience can be a learning opportunity and can help you to be a more effective social worker. So nothing is a lost thing as you go through the program.
Oh boy, the wisdom keeps flowing. Rick, what advice
you.
do you have? For
No,
the students?
thank you. May I answer a question that was put in the chat around when will students be notified of their field placement, and are students automatically assigned based on their placement form? So the answer is yes. For first year placement, we have field placement teams that review your field placement form, your resume, the areas that you would like to work in, and then you are placed based on that field placement form, and you'll receive a notification from our field education department. Now, there are some placements that do require an interview for first year students. If that's the case, then you will be notified by the field placement team coordinator and have that process start. So you generally, students are notified of their field placement during the summer. We are actively working on placement students as we speak. So thank you for that question. In terms of advice, I was one of those students that came through the program when I was already in a career. So social work is my second career. And as Rick mentioned, I brought all of my experience, my values, beliefs, knowledge, skills, and abilities into my placement and into the classroom. As a professor, I can tell you that there's nothing that I value more than hearing a variety and diverse perspectives. It's about diversity of thought. And I challenge and encourage you to share your thinking, share your feelings, step into that brave space where you trust the process. You'll be in this program for however semesters you are with us, and through that, there will be some stress and there will be some exhilaration. And I offer that you trust the process, pace yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Social work is a marathon. As mentioned already, surround yourself with people that are going to elevate you. And it doesn't always mean people that think like you. So it's important to have people around you that will push you, expand your bandwidth. That includes professors. And I have found it helpful and refreshing when students openly communicate with me. That is going to be the key, is that open communication with staff, faculty, colleagues within our school. This way we are in a better place to support you. And finally, I would say that you will get out of this program what you put into it. And that means both in the classroom and in field placement. And something that is common knowledge with our students at their field placement is that you treat your field placement as if it is a job interview. Because we have found that agencies hire our students. So treat your placement like it's a job interview, like it's work, meaning following the NASW Code of Ethics, staying true to all of the 9 competencies, especially competency number 1, which you'll learn later, which is professionalism and ethics. So it'll be extremely important for you to really immerse yourself into this program so that you not only learn about yourself, and you also learn the tenets that will make you an effective social worker.
I'll add that being a graduate student is a self-regulated as well as a self-awareness process. And as Rick just mentioned, it's a process that requires you to be fully engaged and fully present. But at the same time, it's a process that asks you to take risk. And those risks may be connected to just really being open and available to growing and learning and really putting on a growth mindset and being open and receptive to what you can learn so that when you leave the program, you are an evolved person. You're not the same as the person you came in. And there's so much more to the growth and learning process than the courses and your field placement. So thinking about ways to engage at the school level through the caucuses, through the student government organization, but there's so much at the university level, from the cultural centers to the various webinars and seminars that's sponsored by the other 22 academic units, which have various specialty areas, to also looking at our dual degree programs. And so there's many, many places and spaces for you to connect and to grow and to learn. Vision and Voices is one of the university's cultural spaces that has a variety of cultural and arts and ways of engaging us in just culture. And so you can look at that because you need outlets, you need time to focus and you need time to release. And the other things that I would add is that if you don't have a self-care practice, it's important to adopt a self-care practice. And that self-care practice will lead to your perseverance, and it will lead to your ability to get through the demands of the program. And it will lead to a practice that you will be able to share with your clients. So that is so important to your mental health, and to recognize that there are supports on campus that supports us through our stressful times, our ups and downs, for our mental health needs as well. So this is just the beginning. You may forget a lot of what you've heard, but we want to use the remaining time to focus on the questions. Rick, a lot of the questions are field-related questions. So I'd like you to navigate through those. And then Ron, there's one particularly related to enrolling in classes that maybe Ron, you can start with that one because there's one and the rest are field, and then Rick can focus on the field questions as we close out.
Sounds good. Okay, so with regards to registration, every student will receive in about a week or so The academic advising office, the registrar's office, will be sending students their registration appointment. And so if you've completed all the necessary steps to be cleared for registration, you'll receive that appointment time. Registration will begin on June 14th, and then based on your completion of those required forms, you'll receive your registration appointment. Now, there is a registration and academic advising informational webinar that's occurring on June 10th. I would encourage all of you to attend. I'll drop the link in the chat box right now, but in terms of courses, the registration guide will come from the academic advising office. The curriculum can be found on the website. I did put that link a little earlier with regards to the SKY area of study. You could find the curriculum there. Your first semester is set in stone. It really is. If you're a 2-year student, the courses are required. You're going to take those 15 units. If you're in the 3-year program, you're going to take the required 6 units, the 506, 536. Again, you'll be cleared for those courses. You really can't register for anything outside of that. So after your first semester, you will have the opportunity to work closely with your academic advisors, and they'll provide you with the guidance that you need each semester moving forward. So you'll receive that shortly. And then I'll drop the link to the student success webinars in the chat box. But so keep an eye out for that that email notification from the academic advisor and registrar's office regarding your registration appointment. In that email, you have a registration guide that will detail exactly what you should be taking.
Rick, you want to address the field questions?
Yes, so I'll start one from Gavin. And the question is, I will be participating in the ROTC program. Will I be able to work with my field placement around this? I'm not 100% if I understand your question. Is it, or will your field placement be working with ROTC? That's what I'm understanding, Gavin? And as you think about that one, I will move to the next one. I think Essence was answered already. I answered the question about Tristan Sanchez's question around field placement. And the next one is there a huge difference between the stipend field placements and the regular field placement? Should I be worried if I don't get it into a stipend program? Hope that makes sense. So our stipend programs are for second year, and I am not aware of any stipends for first year from our school. In fact, I see a no. So no, there are no stipend for first year, only for second year. That's not to say that an agency might not give a stipend to students, but that is agency specific. So there are some agencies that do give a small stipend that is through the agency. It's not through our school. And should I be worried if I don't get into a stipend program? Well, if you don't get into a stipend program, we do have as mentioned earlier, diverse opportunities with other placement opportunities. For second year students, specific stipend field placements, as I mentioned earlier, one is through GSWEC, and that is working with the aging services, and the other one is through DMH, and that is with the Department of Mental Health. And both have very specific activities for each of those stipends. Let me see, Aaron, good afternoon. Are there field placement availabilities at center political education around diverse community issues, both in outside school environments? The broad answer is yes. I don't have a specific agency in mind. However, we do have agencies that work with politicians around these issues, as well as organizations that work around these issues as well.
And Gavin has restated his
Okay,
question.
thank you. School be slightly flexible. Okay, thank you. So we generally hold placement is Mondays and Wednesdays for first year students in general. And for second year students, it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday because classes are generally Tuesday, Thursday. Now, there are circumstances in which you may land at a placement that does have flexibility in its hours. We do ask our students to make one of those field placement days one full 8-hour day or one full day. If there's any specific challenges, Gavin, that you're thinking of, feel free to send me an email and we can talk offline and we can talk about this. So in general, placement is Mondays and Wednesdays for first year student, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for second year students. However, there are some opportunities for flexibility depending on the agency. So we'll talk offline, Gavin, and I'll put my email address into the chat.
Thank you. Our hour has come to a close. Wow, so much information. And for the attendees, you may walk away and some other questions will come up. We are available. This evening, you have met some of the core faculty members from SCI, Sam Mastrano, Rick Newmeyer, Rick Cornelius, and then you've met Ron Rubacava from admissions, and myself, Renee Smith-Maddox. We are all wishing you the best, and we want you to know, feel free to contact us. If we don't have the answer to the question, we know somebody who will. So once again, it's an exciting time. Think about your why. Why did you apply to the Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work? And the reality is you are now part of our community and we welcome you. I want to thank the school's admissions department. And I should say more specifically, I want to thank Ron and your colleagues, and it's the admissions and academic operations of the Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work for hosting this event. It's been a pleasure being your moderator, and we're going to close this out and just say fight on together. Thank you.
Bye.